Alright, we're done with Aloof and Apart, and we're moving on to some of the more interesting agendas. We'll be playing this event agenda, Dark Wings, Dark Words. I guess this is like Valyrian Steel, but for events. You have to have a 75 card deck, and you cannot have more than one copy per event. So, all the events have to be a one of. But then reaction after you play an event, draw one card, limit 3 times per round. I almost wish it was like limit twice per phase, because that limit 3 is can be pretty easy to hit sometimes. But I guess drawing 3 extra cards is good enough. That's whatever. I remember reviewing this card and being like, well, I can't really get that excited about this because it's so restrictive and specific. And I kind of stand by that. So, on the one hand, I think that it is a bit restrictive, but then on the other hand, it does lead to a very unique type of deck. What other deck is going to have 23 one-of events in it? Like no other deck ever with any other agenda. So you do get to play a deck that looks really weird, and it's pretty fun to play because there's just a lot of nonsense going on all the time. Or tends to be the game tends to feel that way. It's like, oh man, there's so many different things that I have to try and do. And I feel like sometimes the deck just annoys people to death with the sheer amounts of triggers and drawing more cards and playing more random BS. And they're probably just like, oh, I'm just tired of dealing with this. And I will say that I'm surprised at how effective it can be. My biggest worry with an agenda like this is that it's just gonna be bad. And like, even if it'll be one of those agendas where the only way that you can really win games with it is you just play some proven strategy, like, the Tyrell, just play the big character strategy with Marjorie and Renly and whoever, and just basically play around the limitations of the agenda as best as you can. Which is always unfortunate if you have to go that route, because it's kind of like an admission of, well, this agenda is not really that good, and I'm just trying to make the best of a pretty poor selection, if that makes sense. But I can say that, I don't think it's ever going to be a world beater, and the games with the agenda are going to be really inconsistent because of all the one-ofs. It's like, and that can make it more fun too, right? There's a lot of variation, but that means there's going to be games where, like, you mulligan on setup into a hand of 6 events and you just die. And it's like, well, okay, what can you really do about that? But it's more effective than I expected it to be, and even leaning into the agenda pretty hard. Like, I'm not playing Milk of the Poppy, even though Milk of the Poppy realistically should be in the deck and things like that. I still feel like the deck is actually decent enough and wins enough games that it's pretty fun. So, I was also thinking about how to build with this agenda, and some things that I thought about is, first of all, you want cheap events. You don't want events that cost a lot of gold, because you want to be able to spam them. You want to be able to play like 2 or 3 events per round. And you're not going to be able to do that with events that cost 2 gold or more. And it's pretty hard, even if they're all events that cost 1 or more. So, first of all, you want events that cost 0 if you can get them. And events that cost more than 1 have to be something that's really strong. And the other thing I thought about and kind of realized when I was playtesting is you want to lean towards proactive events. You want to lean towards events that you can just play to affect the board state, and not events that are specific and conditional and like require your opponent to do something specific in order to trigger them, or require you to like win a challenge in a really specific way, because there's a risk that those cards are just going to be stuck in your hand and you're just going to be holding like 3 or 4 events that you just can't play, and then you're going to kind of sputter and not be able to do anything. So that was something I kept in mind. I feel like, and another thing is, you want to be able to kind of go fast with this agenda. You want to have sort of an element of like power gain and rush, because the thing about the events is, even with the Annals of Castle Black, they are one shot effects, and like some of them will be 2 shots, but even with the Annals, not very many, like 4 to 5 tops, and quite possibly less than that. And then they're just all going to be gone. So you will run out of gas a lot easier, like after a plot deck reset. You don't want the games to go too long. So those are all things to sort of keep in mind. And I also ended up, well, with this one at least, and the next one after this one, it's like a mid-range cost curve of characters. Like there's not that many expensive characters. I'm not sure if that's like something that you're supposed to do with the agenda, but that's how this ended up. There's nothing that costs above 5, which is important because I'm playing duel. And that's one reason I put duel in the deck. I was like, oh, well, there's just nothing that costs above 5 in here. So that's notable. And the last thing that I think I would say, geez, I have to remember what I was thinking. Oh yeah, the factions that I chose for the agenda. So the factions, Tyrell is the most obvious one because Tyrell has more event support than like all the other factions combined. It's actually kind of like weird how little support there is in terms of other card types, location, attachment, or character that interact with events or encourage you to play them. And Tyrell is the only faction that really seems to have any type of support there. Like other factions do have it, but it's literally like 2 cards, which I'll mention when I get to the other decks. The other 2 factions that I chose were Martell and Lannister. And Martell was the pretty easy second choice. Picking a third faction was pretty tough, but I think Lannister ultimately makes sense. And the support that Tyrell has is they have, so first of all, this card, the Emissary, that lets you replay an event. And like even just marshalling this card in marshalling phase normally to replay the Bounty of Highgarden, that's already pretty good. And then of course there's other shenanigans. They've got the Minstrels that gain gold when you play a song event. I've got 5 songs. Looks like I ended up with 6. So, I mean, sometimes you can get some extra gold off that. They've got this guy, Lazy Leo, who is not super great or important, but just being a 2 for 2 is not terrible. And sometimes you can shuffle a million events back into your deck with him, and that's good, I guess. This new card, Orton Merriweather, who I just added today, because this is my first time playing this deck again after the Forgotten Heroes are available. You just marshal him, and then you get to return an event to your hand. It's like, okay, that's not bad, I guess. And there's, I think the only spies in the deck, as usual, are the Hightower spies. Yeah, Minstrel, that's not a spy. So it's pretty unlikely that you'll trigger his second ability. But marshal him and get an event back, that's probably okay. I don't think there's any other Small Council cards in the deck. I'm too lazy to check. But Small Council is just not a very common trait, so I wouldn't expect that there are. Paxter reduces the cost of events. There's like the Blue Bard, when he leaves play, get all the song events from the top 10. And then there's the big 2. So the big 2, first of all, is this card, which obviously in this deck, and this is why I have 3 copies of him, he can go pretty insane. Especially like on an Annals turn, you can pretty easily buff him up above 10 strength, and that's really annoying for people to deal with, especially if you stand him with a Highgarden Courtier. And the Queen of Thorns, who kneels, and then you can switch out any events in your hand for another event. And obviously, if you have 23 different events in your deck, that means like, oh, I can go and get Nightmares, or I know I can win an Intrigue by 5, so I'll get Hidden Thorns. I can go and get Growing Strong, or Tears of Leaves, Bounty of Highgarden, all kinds of stuff. So she's an obvious choice for a deck like this. So yeah, that's like actually a decent amount of event support, but again, it's like only Tyrell has that much. Then the other cards in the deck, there's also Silver Hairnet. This reduces the cost of events by 1, and there's like enough ladies. See, I put some other cheap ladies, or semi-cheap in the case of Brienne, to support this card, along with like Lady in Waiting and Knight of the Reach. It gives them stealth. Even in this deck, this card is not super great. It's just like okay, but I figure if you're ever playing this card ever in any deck period, it's got to be this one. Like the other event agenda is Sea of Blood. You have to win militaries and ladies, that literally the only one that has a military icon is Brienne. Not super conducive to that. So I guess 1 copy goes in this deck. We've got some economy, and then we've got 1 Huntress and 1 Old Town. Ideally, if you need these, you can go and get them with Support of the People, and they're not super necessary to the deck. It's not like you're going to be in big trouble and really like your deck's not running if you don't have them. They're just like nice bonuses. Huntress, again, even in this deck, which is a low curve deck, is not a great card. It's just an okay card. But if you can get it into play, it'll be a little bit annoying for the opponent, I guess. Old Town, obviously, with the Scheming Septons, who give you challenge phase gold. Always good, worth having if you can find it. And then we get to the events. And the events is just trying to get, again, those traits of cheap and like playable that you can just like toss them out and do something with them. That's the priority. And events that don't fulfill those conditions are typically, I don't know, I think there might be maybe one in the whole deck that I feel like doesn't really work. I mean, there's some that are based on winning challenges by 5 rather. Those are pretty like this is Tyrell still, and there is still strength buff stuff. So I think those are not unreasonable for what they do. There's a few. The main one, When I Woke. So this is a 2 cost, and it does require like something pretty specific to happen. It requires the opponent to like attack you with a character that's expensive in a military challenge or something along those lines. But this makes the cut because this occasionally just wins games. Like when this goes off on a character that costs 6 or 7 and you just put it on top of their deck, I mean, that might not win the game by itself, but that's huge, and that's an effect that's worth having this around to threaten. Like, I've, put 6 cost Drogon out of play and on top of their deck with this event, and they're like, oh crap, and they just fold. So let's look at the events briefly. Most of these don't need a ton of explanation. 6 maids in a pool, more lady support. Dornishman's Wife. And again, one thing I should say is that there's obviously huge flex space in these events. You can obviously switch out and play to your personal preference in terms of which events you like and which ones you don't like. And it's not going to be a huge deal one way or the other because there's a giant amount of them and you're only playing 1 copy anyways. So who really cares? And that's another cool thing about this agenda is it results in a lot of very edge case events that can never really make the cut in a normal deck. They can make it into here, obviously, and so there's a lot of cards that you normally never play that you get to see and play with in these decks, which is cool. The Dornishman's Wife, again, like I said, very borderline card. This should be like Lay Siege or something, but you do have some cheap, unique characters that you can just kill to trigger this if you want to use it, like Blue Bard, Lazy Leo, who else? Garth, although you might not want to kill Garth if you don't have to. Eleanor, Desmera, like who really cares about them? All Men Are Fools. This is actually pretty easy to trigger. 0 cost, gain power. That's pretty good. Lay Waste, Nightmares, Offer of the Peach. Quiet as a Shadow. This is an event I literally don't think I've ever seen anyone play. I'm pretty confident I have not once ever seen this card, except for when I put it in these decks. I mean, I'm including myself, of course. I've never put this in a deck. But it's just a 0 cost and get a stealth on one of your cheap uniques. Pretty efficient for this deck. Yeah, most of these don't really need any further explanation. So the Rose Banner, this is a weird event. This is the redesign. It's do Mace's ability once. You can win dominance with it. You can play it on like an emissary to get her ability. You can use it to get milk off of your characters. It has some uses. I guess I wanted to look at other characters that I didn't mention. Again, a lot of these are just chosen because they're generally like efficient characters. The Knights of the Reach, this is kind of a choice of like having another way to gain power to just try and close out the game faster. But there's, again, a lot of space in the character list. Like, I think you always want the Queen of Thorns, the Knight of Flowers, and, I mean, at least some amounts of the other event support cards. But for the most part, you could change these characters around a lot, depending on what you like or don't like. For the most part, none of them are really essential. I mean, you always are going to have Highguard and Courtiers. That one is easy. Most of them, though, you could switch around if you really wanted. The plots, we have the At the Gates, we have the Noble Cause, and then, again, because it's a mid-range deck, and because, like, big guy decks are pretty popular right now, Duel and Valor Dohaeris are both really great to have. It's just like, oh no, they're playing their two big characters, a 6 cost and a 7 cost. Well, duel, then they play more, then you play Doharis, and that can make a huge difference. Like, that can probably be game deciding. Of course, you have Annals, which does not need a ton of explanation, does really well in this deck. I'd even say you might like consider just playing 2 Annals over Wheels Within Wheels. That's like more inconsistent though. It's more consistent to do Wheels Within Wheels first. First of all, because you search your deck for whichever event you like the most, but then also you put the rest in your discard pile to set up Annals. Which you like, even in this deck, I was skeptical and I was worried that this wouldn't be good and these wouldn't be worth it. I think in this one at least they are. They usually perform pretty well. And then the last plot, I mean, I just put Pulling the Strings. You can probably put this to be whatever you want. I don't have a dedicated draw plot because the deck tends to draw plenty of cards. Plus, Pulling the Strings can often copy a draw plot, but you could put Exchange of Information or Close Call or whatever else you want. You could put the I wouldn't put the plot that puts everything to 3 strength, but what would be funny is you could play Grand Melee. I think Grand Melee would be okay because this is a low curve tech and you can go wide pretty easily with all these little cheap characters. Alright, that was a lot of talking. Let's play a game. This happens sometimes where you can't join people's games. It's just like the last week or two, which I guess that's the entire extent of me playing Thrones in 2020 this last week or two. I don't know what's going on with that. Anyways. Oh, I went to pause and again someone instantly joined. I think this guy plays Targaryen. Yep. At least it's crossing though. I'm gonna keep this set up. It's only 6 gold, but it's 4 cards. And I do get the Minstrel into Rose of Gold. It's risky to mulligan, because like I said, you can like mulligan into 6 events and just die. Although these 2 1-cost characters against Targaryen is pretty spooky, but if he has the stupid Blood of the Dragon, whatever, I'm just going to have to eat that at some point. Funnily enough, Huntress is really good to not, I mean, I don't know about hard counter, but helps counter the Targaryen burn because all your 1-strength dudes get buffed up to 2, so they can't get killed by that plot. Alright, so even if he does it, he's going to kill his guys too. I guess Murine. I guess Murine kind of makes sense for a crossing deck trying to go fast. Winter Festival as the first plot. That is a rush deck indeed. I think I just play everything here because these can give me 4 challenge phase gold. Off to Gold Town, Rose of Gold, Nightmares, Growing Strong. Yep. See, this is what I was talking about. I've already got 5 characters in play. Like, you go wide pretty easily. So, like, if I was to play Grand Melee next, that would be really, really annoying for his deck. If you wanted to meme, that would be a meme choice, but it's not in here. Sad. There's the Murine. He barely marshaled anything before playing that Murine. 5 cards, I mean 5 gold in hand. 5 gold in hand. I guess technically. He has 5 gold, which is not enough for a Drogon ambush. Discarded Drogon. I guess that was, he drew that with Murine. So I do not know what 5 gold is. Maybe he's just going to play like 5 million burn events. This is more draw. That's a really good draw. What's the limit on? Oh, limit 3 times. I thought this was once per phase. Wow, that's pretty good. So it would be slightly more efficient to put the military icon on the scheming septon, but I do suspect like a consuming flames or something, and I'd rather he use it on the blue barb than my septons. If he defends this, I'm going to Growing Strong it. Alright, doesn't feel like defending. I think I pass now. Could do a power, not really necessary. This guy's not going to pull anything, but we'll still kill him. Oh, wow. I already played 2 of my songs and he still got one. I guess it happens. Why isn't this? Oh, there it is. Just lagged. Look at all this draw. This is ridiculous. Again, I'm doing this in case of burn. Because if I declare the defender... Well, I guess I could have declared the defender since I'm first player and then instantly Growing Stronged it. Let's do that. Oh, I meant to do the Septon. Oh, well. I don't think I can block this. Oh, I actually can. That's funny. I'm not going to trigger the other Septon because I'm over reserve. I don't have any ladies, so I'll discard that. I think I just do wheels. Another Winter Festival. Jeez, I misclicked. That was supposed to be wheels. It's kind of annoying. Play anything out of here and draw phase? No, they all cost gold. One thing to remember with Annals is it's twice per phase, which is probably pretty easy for challenge phase, but not that easy for other phases. So you want to keep your eyes out for opportunities to play events in other phases when this plot is revealed to maximize the value from it. None of these can really be played for any value in any other phases, unfortunately, but if I have a spare gold, I can play Renly's Ride just to get like an extra, how do you say? An extra card draw. But I'll probably hit my draw 3 limit really easily from the agenda this turn. Why is this out of the game? Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, I guess he was discarding it for Murine, so it doesn't matter. She nightmares my Gates of the Moon, of course. Shame I don't have Bounty of Highgarden. Try to Tears of Lee's Khal Drogo. Do I even want to Marshal Redwine Straits? I think it slows me down too much to do that. It's probably fine. I've got Septons. If I didn't have Septons, I might not marshal it. I don't want to marshal this guy. Let's just see what this gets me. Yeah, there's no other faction deals. Plus, whatever I give him is going to get discarded for Marine, which is actually really funny. I guess the Queen of Thorns, even though I obviously can't play her this turn. It's a good draw. Still a question of whether I want Lazy Leo. But I think, again, I'm just going to have plenty of challenge phase gold, so we might as well just marshal him. Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and do this right away. Ooh, Huntress. That was pretty good. Baron the Maiden Fair is pretty good too, but I'll take Huntress in this situation. Why can't I play this? I have a gold. Am I missing something here? Oh, it's twice per phase. Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about. You have to remember, it's twice per phase. You can't just play them all. I already did Nightmares and Rose of Gold. So that's too bad. I probably should have used that, I should use Off to Gold Town so I'd have a military icon. That was a misplay. Said there's too many triggers, I can't remember all of them. Don't care too much about intrigue. This hand is big, just don't get Tears of Lees. That's fine, I don't have any knights. Not going to be able to play Lay Waste on the Plaza if I'm able to spend the money. Oh no, I have Septon, so I actually can. That's good. He's waiting to do his power challenge. That's overkill. He might think that I can still play Growing Strong out of my discard. Obviously I cannot. Shame I don't have any ladies. This doesn't do anything. Again, I can play this, but I already drew 3 cards from my agenda, so it literally doesn't matter. Probably don't need 2 emissaries. Don't need 2 minstrels. So he got his 4 power from his winter festivals. Yeah, he's out of festivals now. Did get to 9 power. Killing Khal Drogo with Tears of Lees, obviously pretty big. See, this is another thing, like, if I had this when I woke and it hits Khal Drogo, or this guy, unfortunately, has a duplicate, because of course he does. That could be huge. Could have been huge. Alright, that's a lot of cards. Sadly, I'm going to Marshal Brienne just so I'll have a military icon, even though I'd rather have the Queen of Thorns. Let's play this while it's available. Hightower Spy is nice. Cannot afford Orton. Might be able to hit Kotho with this, but I'm probably going to Dohaeris, so who cares really. Might not Dohaeris, we'll see. He's going to have trouble on challenges that aren't military. Minstrel. Yeah, Companion, that's trash. Very annoying. Dario Naharis. Sad to use both of these before they can do a challenge, but this is the correct play. No 0 cost events, right? That's too bad. 1 more gold and I could really screw him over. Oh, I messed this up. Alright, it worked out. I was going to say I should have used the Hightower Spy while one of these was still on top, because it would be guaranteed to be 6 to 7. But it ended up being +3 anyway, so it was fine. Garth was on top. That's really good, because military was like all he had going for him this turn. So with how that turn went, I might not Dohaeris, because I think he's going to play You Win or You Die. If I can just stall him 1 more turn from You Win or You Die, then Dohaerising after that is better. I think this guy's too expensive. Plus Emissary basically does the same thing. See, if I had not killed Khal Drogo with Tears, this would be a dual turn. It would be really good. Yep, called it. Only 1 event, sad. I've already spammed so many events this game, though. I've drawn pretty well as far as having a ton of events to play. So I basically have to survive this turn and keep him below like 14 power. And then I do Dohaeris. He has both versions of Jorah, okay. Ooh, that hurts. That thing's big. I think I want to put in this to play Growing Strong, which again means I can't afford the Queen of Thorns. Unfortunate. I mean, I might have been able to get away with Queen of Thorns, actually. But I think it's fine. I don't think there's anything that the Queen of Thorns could fetch for me by, like, switching out this When I Woke. Because the event I need here is Growing Strong. I already have it. Yeah, this time he overcommits because of the shenanigans. Oh, can I still block this? It's going to be so funny. Because I can buffer up +2, +3. That's only 11, though. Probably can't quite do it. Sad. Damn, already played a limited. I'm trying so hard to figure out how to defend this with just Brienne. Even though it's not going to happen, it's still correct to do this. Oh, I should have played off the Gold Town. That was a misplay. Because I could... No, off the Gold Town still wouldn't work, would it? Off the Gold Town on Marjorie. Defend 5, buff her. Yeah, it'd still only be 11. I can cash this guy in to try and draw like Hightower Spy. It's not worth the risk, I don't think. All of this is just to use the High Guarding Courtier before he steals it. Yeah, 2 claims not fun either. But next turn is still Harris, so really it's just sad that he got rid of my 2 strength power icon. This is any challenge by 5 or more strength it can be defending. He misplayed. He knelt my Courtier that he stole. Oh, he didn't kneel it. Why didn't he use... I'm confused. Because he should be able to stand something with this Courtier. Oh, I think because it's limit once per phase. And I think because I used this ability, so he doesn't get to use it. That's funny. So this is going to give him what? Geez, 14 power. Right? 14. Oh, he had superior claim. That's trash. Literally the last card in his hand was superior claim. That's really sad. So my plan almost worked. I got so close. Next turn I do Harris, and I think I would have had a way better shot in this game. He could have kept the power on his characters, but these 2 alone and an empty hand and everything else going away, I think I had a decent shot from there because I was at 9 power. I just needed one more good challenge phase, especially with all men are fools. But we couldn't quite get there. He outrushed me. That's funny. Because I have games with this deck sometimes where I rush the other person to death. Like I get to 15 before they can get all their stuff out, basically. But this time it happened to me. What can you do? Crossing deck with good enough draws can always win.